Hello everyone, this is Defense Politics Asia, and press the like button, destroy it, subscribe. Subscribe. You have to subscribe. Join the DPA Army because we need more army because there's a massive breakthrough. We need your help. Let's do the intro. So, hello everyone, this is Defense Politics Asia, and the breaking news is in the Svatove Front. So, Svatove is actually, is over here. And this area, this is Kupyansk, and this is Kreminna. So, it's kind of like an in-between, and Svatove is not so sexy as compared to Kupyansk or Kreminna or Liman. Most of the other YouTube channels, I guess, most of the media don't really like to talk about it because it's a place where it doesn't really seem to have some major landmarks that they can kind of like put their minds around. And we have previously talked about this Avdiivka, where the karma comes. This is where you get karma, and this karma has come to the Ukrainians. Previously, we have mentioned that the Russian forces managed to break through across the Zaporizhzhia River and have some kind of salient. This was the salient. This was the salient. What happened? I have no idea. But according to pro-Ukrainian source, Deep State UA reported that there's a massive Russian breakthrough in this area here, and they call it partial success, I guess. What did they call it? No, it's this one. They call it successes. So this is one of the rare times you will see Deep State UA use successes without partial, the word partial. So and in their mapping, so I didn't expect it to be so big because this report was also reported by Surya Map, but Surya Map wasn't even this much. Surya Map's mapping was only something like this. And Deep State UA goes all the way here, and this is massive. This is a massive breakthrough. We went from here to here. This is, oh my god, this is so big. Let's measure the distance. This is like a 5-kilometer push from the initial line that we know. So this so in fact it's so big that even Deep State UA says that Novoyehorivka might actually be under Russian control. They say that the Russians have tremendous superiority in artillery, and they are not sparing anything. And Remelin, the pro-Russian source, in his latest post, as per the recording that I saw, also echoed the same rumor that Novoyehorivka has been captured. And they say that the Ukrainian forces have fallen back to oh my god, how to pronounce this? Verdolibove. So the Ukrainian forces reportedly have withdrawn to this town over here, but this is purely rumors at this moment because I want more. This is a serious thing. So I need a more concrete reporting, like more confirmed reporting, because Remelin has made multiple bad calls lately. So I do not want to take his words for it, and Deep State UA themselves are not so sure. But all these rumors indicates that there might be actually a Russian success over here as well, which means that there's no more Ukrainian defense lines around here. The Ukrainian defense line that was actually around here was totally smashed by now. So this is the major news over the past 24 hours, and I have made analysis or report, the arrow map that many of you guys like, on the main channel. You can go and check it out, where I talk about the implications of this breakthrough. So moving further up, we already have reports of fighting at Novoyehorivka on the 21st, which is the day before yesterday, and this add-on with the breakthrough information that came out over the past 24 hours, with further information coming from the Russian Defense Ministry talking about fighting at Avdiivka, where the Ukrainians try to counterattack. And the day before, there was Deep State UA saying that the Russians have already some success over the west of Kreminna. All these information seems to be corroborated, and this breakthrough seems to be really real, especially you have the Ukrainians talking about it. The fighting was also being reported at Novovodyan. The Russian Defense Ministry says that the Ukrainians counterattack over at this Novovodyan region. Despite the Russians are actually pushing out in this area here, it looks like they are trying to hold back the Russians, but it seems like in vain, tentatively by the look of it. And on top of this fighting, there is the Russians have this breakthrough around this area here. Further up north, the Russians are also pushing. Fighting is being reported towards Nadia, as well as reported fighting at Svatove. Information coming from Deep State UA talking about the fighting at Svatove, and then we have the fighting at Nadia being reported by the Ukrainian Defense Ministry on both days, 21st and 22nd, which means that we are seeing another push from the Russians in this area here, and this looks like a mini pincer in this area. Ukrainian forces may have to withdraw in this area to form a new line of defense along this road. There's another road around here. This is a major road. The Ukrainian forces will likely all fall back to this road line to defend, or they can actually hold in the forest, which might be a bad idea because they already lost the forest region in this area here. So it looks like they might not be able to hold the forests because in the forest it's hard to resupply. So maybe they will go along the road for the next defense line. And further up in the northern part of the Svatove Front, we have continued fighting over at the Novosibirsk region. We have fighting at Novosibirsk on the Ukrainian probings over around this area here. Deep State UA says that the Russians are still continuing the attack around this area. And the Russian Defense Ministry also reported that the Ukrainians have probing forces around this area on yesterday. Deep State UA, however, says that the fighting is now at Kupyansk, which is next door, which is unlikely. It's probably still around Novosibirsk. And the Ukrainian forces also try to attack at Berestove, so this area here continue to be very contested. The Ukrainian forces is trying to hold back, but it's all going to be calamitous if the Russians have this breakthrough in this area. And we go up to the Kupyansk Front since we are here. At the Kupyansk Front, the Russian forces continue their offensive actions around the forest region south of Masutivka. We have fighting reported on the 21st as well as 22nd, according to Deep State UA. The Russian Defense Ministry reported that the Ukrainians counterattack. The 95th Separate Air Assault Brigade made a counterattack, but it seems like it did not work out. Then we have also Ryba, the pro-Russian source, reported that the Russian forces are fighting around Liman Pershi, and they are still continuing to move south. At Sinkivka, Ryba reported there was a separate attack, fighting north of Sinkivka. So they made a distinction between the Russian push within the forest around Liman Pershi region and south of Masutivka, and then there's a separate attack against Sinkivka. All this Russian pressure is putting a lot of pressure on the Ukrainians, and the Ukrainians actually kind of panicked, and they sent reinforcement to Sinkivka. They sent the 1st Battalion of the 13th Airborne Brigade to Sinkivka to protect and to fight back against the Russian offensive. And there is further reinforcement holding up at Kupyansk from the 3rd Brigade and 41st Mechanized. And the Ukrainians also counterattack near Petropavlivka. Petropavlivka is around here. The front line is actually not so close to this area here, but the Russian Defense Ministry kind of made it a point to say, which means that if Petropavlivka is here, that means there's a Russian push around the Vyshina region, and Ukrainian forces is likely to be counterattacking to keep the Russians at their line. So that might be what is happening over at this region here around Vyshina or south of Vyshina. And that's it from the Kupyansk Front. We have covered the Svatove Front. Now let's go to the nearby, which is Kreminna Front. This is Kreminna. Kreminna Front is just south of this fighting this salients that the Russians currently have over here. The Russian forces is also attacking at Makiivka and Nevsky. Information coming from the Deep State UA and the Ukrainian Defense Ministry. This report is on the 21st. Both are coming on the 21st. So we haven't seen the such report on the 22nd. So that means the Russian attack here kind of have failed. But it wouldn't matter that much if the Russian forces continue their breakthrough in this area and they can actually hit the rear. And if they hit the rear, then the entire Ukrainian defense line will collapse. So we shall see how this goes. And of course, all these big arrows take some days or even weeks to develop, if not months. If the defenders are doing a very good job. Within the Serebranski forestry, we have fighting continue fiercely within the forest region of Serebranski, the forest plantation. Central Group of Forces reported that the Ukrainians tried to attack within the Serebranski forestry. And Deep State UA and Ukrainian Defense Ministry insist that the Russians are on the offensive. That on the 22nd, the same information continues with the Ukrainians launching a counterattack being reported by the Russian Defense Ministry. Deep State UA says that the Russians are still the one on the offensive. So, we are still not so sure what's the situation here. Interestingly, there was this report by the Ukrainian Defense Ministry talking about fighting near Kryhorivka. Kryhorivka is actually on the south of the Siversk Donetsk River. There's all this river system over here. Kryhorivka is actually here. So I believe that the fighting is actually not from the south. It's not likely to be that case. It's probably within the forest. The Russians probably are trying to secure the river system around here near Kryhorivka. So it was being reported by the Ukrainian Defense Ministry. Around the Brova region, the Russians are continuing their offensive around here. The Ukrainian Defense Ministry reported that the Russians are attacking. And Syria Maps also reported there is some increase in control around this area here. But it's still all within our mapping. So it's not very significant in terms of our DPA's point of view. Ukrainian Defense Ministry, the Ukrainians reportedly attacking on the 22nd around the Dniprova region. There's two separate reports talking about it. There is an enemy attack, and then there was also sabotage groups near Cheverno-Popivka. Near Cheverno-Dniprova. Dniprova is here. So the Ukrainian forces is doing some actions around this area here, and the Russians are trying to stop it. Probably very successful, tentatively speaking. There is a geolocation of Russian forces at this region here. This video is geolocated by Deep State UA and allegedly was the use of cluster munition on on Russian forces at this area here. So with multiple videos footages showing possible cluster shells exploding, it seems like the Ukrainians really have run out of normal shells to use, which is why they are using this shell, which is actually a lot more problematic. And this problematic shell has killed one Russian reporter over in the Zaporizhzhia region, and injured several more from major Russian TV stations, which is why it becomes a big thing. If not, it wasn't really such a big thing. So, but it's not very important because it's just a war. RIP for those that died, but you go to the front line, that's the risk you take. So stop telling me to go to Ukraine to report. It's bad for health. And over at Torsky, the Russian forces reported that the Ukrainians have attacked around the Torsky region. However, on the 22nd, the Ukrainian Defense Ministry reported that the Russians are on the offensive around Torsky. So the pressure around this entire front line, where the Ukrainians say that the Russians have 100,000 troops, is really putting a lot of pressure on the Ukrainians. And they are maybe the information was really prepping us for a collapse of the Ukrainian lines, because they know that they are probably being outnumbered in this area here. Over at the Siversk Front, we have Ukrainians attacking Russian positions at Zolotarivka in the Luhansk region, and they are also attacking over in the Sperne region. according to the Russian Defense Ministry. The attack also goes to Bilohorivka, which is part of the Donetsk region. So the Ukrainians are pushing out of the Siversk Front, probably to try to divert Russian attention from the Kreminna Front and also from the Bakhmut Front to hold this line, because for the Ukrainians to penetrate further into the Luhansk region is a very bad press for the Russians. But so far, the Russians probably are not biting the bait. Over at the Bakhmut Front itself, in the northern flank, there is reports of Ukrainian advance around the highway region. However, it was first reported by Surya Maps, but it was invalidated by Deep State UA, because they actually claim that the Russians have this forest region, whereas Surya Maps seems to have mapped the Ukrainian control around this area here. Information as per here, sorry, it's Ryba. My fault. Sorry, it's not Surya Maps. My bad. It's Ryba that mapped it in that way, but the Ukrainian Ukrainian source Deep State UA did not acknowledge such an advance. So sorry, Surya Maps wrongly said. And the 22nd, the Russians actually counterattack. So far, information coming from Ryba and Deep State UA simply mentioned there's fighting around this area here. There is, however, geolocation of the front line around this position, which actually kind of shows that the Russians may still actually have this forest area here as their defense line. So yeah, so this is the situation over at the highway towards Sloviansk and Kramatorsk. Over further south, we have Russians attacking Hryhorivka over here. Yeah, it could be this Hryhorivka and not that Hryhorivka. Yeah, Ukraine leaving Ukraine. Anyway, they say that the Russians are attacking Hryhorivka and also towards Bodanivka. Information is all from the Ukrainian Defense Ministry. And then we have Ukrainians continue their offensive in the northwestern part of Bakhmut city, fighting reported towards Bakivka, Yakhidne, and in the south of Yakhidne. Information coming from Deep State UA, and this is Deep State UA also, and this one is by Surya Maps and Deep State UA. So Surya Maps and Deep State UA mapped that the Ukrainians have actually managed to capture more grounds around this area here. So they are getting closer and closer to the northern part of the northern portion or northwestern portion of the Bakhmut city. So, and if they manage to capture Yakhidne, then there will be a calamitous problem for the Russians. And in the southern flank, we have fighting reported southwestern part of Bakhmut city. Ukrainian Defense Ministry says that the Russians are attacking towards Ivaniske. However, Surya Maps reported that the Ukrainians actually managed to capture some grounds around this Dacha region in the southwestern part of Bakhmut city. In the Klishchiivka region, fighting continues from the north, from the west, and from the south. The Ukrainians are continuing their offensive. Reports coming from all kinds of sources: Russian Defense Ministry, Deep State UA. On the 22nd, we have Russian Defense Ministry, Deep State UA, Ryba, all talking about the fighting at Klishchiivka. On the western part, we have Deep State UA, and Surya Maps reported that the Russians actually counterattacked over at the western part of Klishchiivka. No results as far as I can tell. In the south, we have reporting from Deep State UA. The Ukrainian Defense Ministry did not talk about Klishchiivka at all. They only mentioned that their offensive is in Zaporizhzhia, so they totally did not acknowledge their offensive over in the region here in the southern part of Bakhmut. There is a geolocation of Russian forces at this position, which means that the Russians are still around this area here, but the Ukrainians are actually making a lot of push. There are some rumors that the Ukrainian forces have actually entered into Klishchiivka in certain regions. I'm not sure exactly where they are fighting. They actually managed to capture some houses, but I'm not sure. These are just rumors. Probably from the south, I got a feeling, if it is true. And further south, we have Russians counterattack over on the western part of Avdiivka, according to Ryba, the pro-Russian source. they are moving most likely in this area here, or probably in this area, trying to push back the Ukrainian forces. There is geolocation of Russian forces at this position. It's a tank that was hit around here. So there is also information of fighting around around the Mayorsk region. On the 21st, Russian Defense Ministry reported that the Ukrainians attacked Mayorsk, and there was also fighting reported towards Zaporizhzhia, according to the Russian Defense Ministry on the 22nd. So Zaporizhzhia is here. So the Ukrainian forces is actually making moves against the Russians around this area here, and this is definitely pretty strategically important for the Russians to actually hold Mayorsk. Any Ukrainian push into Zaporizhzhia is only just going to make Prigozhin look very good, the boss of Wagner forces, because Prigozhin literally talked about the Ukrainians going for Zaporizhzhia and linking up with the north from Siversk, in the outer pincer. So yeah, thought you never thought that I would talk about Prigozhin again, right? So moving on, we have some missile strikes to report. The Russian forces strike foreign fighters at the Lviv National Army Academy around this area here, and reportedly, took out Polish and German mercenaries. They say large numbers. I'm not sure what is large numbers. Like, you write the number 1 very big, or is it 100? So and then over at this region of, is it Sumy? I think this Chernihiv region. This town of Gontsharivke or Goncharivke, around here, there's actually a military camp around here, and I can actually see the armored vehicles around here. This is a military camp, and there's a missile strike hitting here. Again, the target is foreign mercenary units. So the Russians are definitely stepping up on the strike on foreign fighters or the foreign legion that's fighting on the side of the Ukrainians. But this is the ongoing tradition of the special military operation by Russia. They always strike the foreign fighter positions if they know where they are. There is also a missile strike being reported at Zatoka Bridge. This is the world's most hated bridge, with the Russians hitting Zatoka bridge for like countless times. I actually lost count. And they have not hit the bridge for a long time because of the Black Sea grain deal. And because of the cessation of the Black Sea grain deal, this is no more. The Russians started to strike Odessa and the bridge again, striking Mykolaiv. And this is unusual. This is like a it's only because this strike that I got reminded that, oh, the Russians indeed have not struck this bridge for a long time. They have not struck Odessa for a long time because of these green deals. And so, yeah. So the Russians are definitely, expanding their aggression against the poor Ukrainian tiny state. They are so sad. Yeah. But the Ukrainians are doing really well. They are holding up against a country that's way bigger than them. So over at the Zaporizhzhia Front, this is Zaporizhzhia, and Zaporizhzhia Front is across this entire front line all the way to Velika Novosilka sector. At the Kreminna sector, we have another Ukrainian attempt at Zaporizhzhia. Deep State UA reported fighting near Zaporizhzhia, and there's no reasons for me to believe that it's a Russian attack. It's most likely a Ukrainian attack, and no other information coming from any other sources about this. Over at the Orikhiv sector, this is Orikhiv, the Ukrainians continue their offensive against Robotine. This Robotine, and there is geolocation of Ukrainian forces over at this region here, where the Russians strike Ukrainian positions. Ukrainians were attacking on the 21st and on the 22nd. Information coming from Deep State UA, the Russian Defense Ministry, Surya Maps, Deep State UA again, and Ryba. So this is a very well documented attack, with the Ukrainians continue their offensive. And according to Ryba, the pro-Russian source, they say that the enemy, their term enemy, the Ukrainians launched assault detachment, 3 attacks on Robotine and large numbers of armored vehicles. And So the Russian Defense Ministry reported that the same thing. They say tanks and armored fighting vehicles were attacking, and then yeah. So this attack against Robotini, will continue for whatever it takes, because they are already so close. They are at the first line of defense. Able to capture Robotini would be a significant military achievement, and also a great PR victory for the Ukrainians. But so far, they are still stuck in the northern outskirts of Robotini. There is also further fighting around the region away from Robotini. The Russians attacked Ukrainian forces near Novodanilivka as well as near Malatomashka on the 22nd. And this information is also corroborated by Ryba, talking about the one at Malaya Tomashka. They say that they hit the Ukrainian column of armored vehicles. And the day before, the Russian Defense Ministry already reported that the Ukrainians were attacking around the area of Malatomashka. So this is actually kind of like a counter-attack. But as you can see, the Ukrainians are attacking towards Robotini, and the Russians are attacking in this area here. It definitely looks like nothing. And there is also fighting being reported at Novoporovska. And this is reported by the Russian Defense Ministry. They say that the Russian troops attacked the manpower and hardware of the Ukrainian forces at this area here. So I'm not sure if this is the beginning of some kind of an offensive by the Russians to actually retake their previous defense line. But it does look very scary, because the Ukrainians are actually here. So they are actually having this salience here. And the Ukrainians also are also doing their own thing. They have some fighting, some probing attacks around Luhivsky, this area here, just off Novoporovska. And but it's not going to go anywhere, because there's just way too many defenses around this area here. I'm sure the Ukrainians also have a lot. I'm just saying. Over at the Hoyapole sector, the Ukrainians also probed at Mafopil as part of the same one as the Luhivsky one. So this is reported by the Russian Defense Ministry. This is nothing because it's just probing. There's nothing much to talk about. Over at the Velika Novosilka sector, the Ukrainian forces continue their offensive against Staromayorsky and Uruzhaini. Fighting is being reported towards these two towns by the information from Vostok Group of Forces, by the Russian Defense Ministry, and also by Deep State UA. So far, the fighting is in the north of Staromayorsky. On the 21st, on the 22nd, this fighting continues to be reported. And Ryba actually reported that the Ukrainians have to retreat due to artillery fire. At Uruzhaini, the Russian Defense Ministry reported the attack, and Ryba actually added more information, saying that it is small maneuvering groups on armored vehicles on the outskirts of Uruzhaini. So the fighting continues for these two towns. Similarly, this is just like Robotini. These towns are very important for the Ukrainians to capture in order to build on the momentum that they have actually created at huge cost. So if they cannot capture this after maybe another 2-3 weeks, it's going to destroy their morale, like for real. Like for real. They already have been trying so hard for Robotini, Staromayorsky, Uruzhaini. And if they still do not capture these few towns after trying so hard, losing so much, I think this is going to have a massive hit on the Ukrainian morale. Let's give them 1 month. Maybe that is a fair amount of time, given how much the Russians are trying to hold the line and refuse to let them as they continue to. In fact, they are not even reinforcing. There is a lot of rumors on the Russian side saying that the Russian Defense Ministry refused to rotate the troops. So the commanders on the ground are complaining. Even the Ryba is reporting on this, that they are pleading the Russian command to rotate the troops, because the troops are really exhausted from all these Ukrainian attacks. But I do not know. It might actually be just misinformation to lure the Ukrainians on to do even more attacks against all these very well prepared defense line. We have no idea what's the situation like. So do not believe everything that you see online. So no, it can be a misinformation. They just want to lure the Ukrainians into attacking just by claiming that the Russians are weak. That is a possibility, but that could also be possible that indeed they are really, they are hierarchical or operational problems on the Russian side, and the Ukrainians should take advantage of it, which means to attack further. So yeah, it can go both ways. The Russians, however, are on their own counter offensive on the western part of Makarivka. This is reported by the Russian Defense Ministry. Their forward units, supported by artillery, actually hit Ukrainian groups of forces on the western part of Makarivka. And there's also been reports by the Vostok group of forces about them attacking Ukrainian forces near Rivnopil. So the Russians are actually moving out and attack in small groups as well. It feels like some kind of hunting squads. They are being deployed into this area here. They go out in small groups. Maybe they are spotters for artillery, and they look for where the Ukrainians are, call on artillery, and yeah, that might be what they are doing. So the Russians doesn't seem to be that exhausted, if you ask me, if you are doing this kind of thing. And there is also south of Novodarivka, the Ukrainian Defense Ministry said that the Russians tried to counterattack south of Novodarivka. So I'm not sure where the front line is at this juncture, because the gray zone tentatively seems to be really huge. And the Ukrainians also continue their probing at Prione on the 21st, and on the 22nd, the probing developed into an attack. According to the Russian Defense Ministry, Deep State UA simply mentioned that there is fighting at Prione. So the Ukrainian forces are continuing to try to push at Prione, and I don't think it's coming from the north, given that the Ukrainian Defense Ministry say that the Russians are attacking northward towards Novodarivka. So yeah, that's the situation over here at the Velika Novosilka sector. Very dynamic. So far, are you following? A lot of things has happened. And so over at the Donetsk Front, there is a Russian shelling being reported north of Volodymyrivka. I already said that I'm not going to report on shelling, but this is significant because the Russian forces discovered a huge force of Ukrainian troops, and they actually ordered a massive shelling on these forces in the north of Volodymyrivka. So it could be a case where the Ukrainians are actually gathering a force to try to push for Volodymyrivka, but this force was discovered. So that could be a case. And over at the Novomikhailivka region, this area is the usual. We have the Russians attacking being reported at Novomikhailivka, according to the Russian Defense Ministry and Ukrainian Defense Ministry. On the 22nd, Ukrainian Defense Ministry continued to report that the Russians are on the offensive in this area here. At Marinka, continues to be the same. Both sides claim that each other are the evil guy. And however, on the 22nd, only the Ukrainians say that the Russians are the evil guys over at Marinka. The Russians did not say the Ukrainians are attacking. The Ukrainians also say that the Russians are attacking near Krasnohorivka, which is likely the one north of Marinka, with the Russians are probably still pushing around this area here. I don't expect these attacks to be big. It's likely to be pretty small, squad size, company size at most. So it's not those big offensive that we are currently seeing over at the Svatove Front. Over at the Avdiivka Front. At the Avdiivka Front, the Ukrainians are still on their offensive, but it seems to die down. It seems to be dying down around this area here. We have fighting reported at Vodian on the 21st, according to the Russian Defense Ministry, and then also at Vasily in the part of the same report. And after that, there was nothing else from the Ukrainians. Then we only have the Ukrainian Defense Ministry reporting that the Russians are attacking over at Pervomaisky, according to the Ukrainian Defense Ministry, as I just mentioned, and over at Avdiivka region. And most likely it's the eastern part of Avdiivka, because Deep State UA mentioned east of Avdiivka. So the report from the Ukrainian Defense Ministry talking about the area of Avdiivka is likely to be from the east. And the situation over at the Avdiivka seems to be a stalemate at this moment. The Ukrainian offensive at Avdiivka seems to be at its end. I think there is no more Ukrainian Avdiivka offensive. Tentatively, from the look of it, from the reports, it looks like the Ukrainians are really drawn away due to all the things happening all across the rest of the front lines. Anyway, this is the summary for the day of 513 to 514 for the 21st to the 22nd of July. Do press the like button, subscribe. The channel is very close to some kind of milestone number. I think it's 40,000. So do your part, subscribe, and make this channel bigger. And also, if you subscribe, then more people can discover DPA. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next update.